Almost 5 years since the release of Skyrim, and finally I have a go-to combat mod, released this year, Wildcat. This is created by the same author that brought many other larger and popular mods like Wintermist, Apocalypse, Thunderchild, and Ordinator. Wildcat has the same level of expected quality and has updated the same freakish amount that I've come to expect from one of my favorite modders, Anai. To describe Wildcat to veteran modders in a line, Wildcat is the I need of combat mods. It has what it needs to really affect gameplay and not much else. This makes Wildcat stable, lightweight, and insanely compatible to the point where you can drop it into any load order where it will overwrite or be overwritten peacefully. You can even add it to a load order that doesn't run SkyUI, and it worked without a hitch on Overhaul. Wildcat has a lot of the features you'd expect in a combat mod: enhanced enemy AI, timed blocking, difficulty-based damage rebalancing, reduced auto-aim, attacks costing stamina, reduced damage at 0 stamina, as well as a heap of other rebalances, but it stays away from changes that have little effect. Its own tagline is the aim to make combat more dangerous and varied, and less like a balloon fight, which it handily accomplishes. Other mods try to turn Skyrim's combat into something it isn't, and add a lot of smaller things that add almost a false complexity, but doesn't change gameplay. Bonus damage when attacking from higher elevations, another 10% if moving forward during the attack, and another 15% if the sun is at your back and you're mid-air. While there may be an argument from an immersion standpoint where changes like that make sense, when you mod things like that into your game and you end up playing them, it's as if they weren't even there. You play as if those changes weren't in the game. Wildcat's approach is streamlined with a rather short list of changes, but the values and changes in damage and effect are drastic. We're looking at swings of 25% and higher, many of which overlap, and each change falls under 2 different categories: that actions have an inherent drawback, and active gameplay and successful actions are rewarded. What I mean by inherent drawbacks are things like moving slower when your bow is drawn or you're casting a spell, backpedaling and sidestepping slower if you have a weapon drawn, taking more damage if you are hit while power attacking or casting a spell without a ward active, and this is on top of the previously mentioned stamina cost for even just swinging your weapon. Most of these are intuitive, and a good testament to the mod's design is you don't need to study the mod page. You're gonna get it just after playing with the mod for 10 minutes. Active gameplay is rewarded with things like timed blocking, increased effectiveness of blocking, and decreased effectiveness of armor and passive resistances, as well as taking advantage of those windows when enemies are open to increased damage, because all of these changes affect both the NPCs and yourself. Increased spell costs and stamina costs to attacks are mixed with increased resource regeneration to add light resource management without slowing combat down. But the core of Wildcat, I feel, comes in the form of what I like to call combat momentum, and this is taking the idea that successful actions are rewarded even further. This momentum comes from 3 factors: the overall increase in damage done and taken, an injury system, and a blanket decrease in damage done against high health targets, and an increase in damage done against low health targets, of which it swings 25% in either direction. When you or an NPC are hit under 50%, 35%, or 20% health, a stagger or a stun is applied and a chance to have a random injury is inflicted. This is the injury system, and this is noted on the screen, and there are 5 separate injuries that can occur. All of them have a different initial effect called the trauma, and a lingering effect, the injury. And these are removed after 5 minutes or when health is restored to 100%, meaning these are not things that you're going to micromanage outside of combat. They only have an effect during combat usually. This, in combination with the increase in damage against lower health targets, creates this momentum where when you're winning a fight, you have a real stacking advantage, and when you're losing a fight, you're at a real disadvantage. The stacking penalties will force you to play differently either way, whether you can play really aggressive or if you have to play defensively or just run away, and things like opening blows or parrying early or powerful attacks work to help create or prevent this snowball effect from occurring. Now, these changes cannot alter Skyrim away from the clunky hack-and-slash title that it is, but at the very least it adds an additional dimension outside of just increasing all damage done and taken arbitrarily. It wants you to create your own momentum snowball and prevent your enemy from doing the same, and this type of combat works well with the types of difficulty mods that people already add into Skyrim, like bosses or HP sponges or increased spawns, as it's based around playing well, not trying to change the combat entirely. Very little of what Wildcat has is completely original to itself. You may already use Vigor and be saying, so what, most of that's in Vigor. But this is why I said it's the I need of combat mods. It has all of the parts needed to shift the way you approach combat without taking it to the extreme and having the stamina cost of jumping be affected by the weight of your gear, or having your current stamina impact 7 different stats ranging from movement speed to the ability to stagger your opponent. It has what it needs and not much else. That's why Wildcat is my favorite combat mod to date, combined with a simple and extensive MCM menu to tweak what parts of the mod you like and which ones you don't. I personally removed the staggering but spread out the injury thresholds. This mod isn't going to be leaving my mod list anytime soon, and I just love how stable it is. Until next time, this is Fever. Purse.